Man, do I have a cruise news story for you guys today. A cruise ship room attendant fell head over heels for a 61-year-old passenger. He broke into her room, went up to her, grabbed her face, and as she says it, put his tongue in her mouth. Yeah, and it gets worse from there. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Cruise News Central with Joseph.
All right, so to set the scene of one of the cringiest cruise news stories I've heard all year, if not of all time, let's talk about the characters here. So we have Fernando Saces. He's 46 years old. He's been working on cruise ships for 20 years, and he's from the Philippines. And then we have the victim, a 61-year-old woman who's a resident of the United States, that it was on a birthday cruise. And hey, I just want to give credit where credit's due. I'm basing this video on a story from the Daily Mail. I will have the link for the story in the description. Okay, so let's get started. The steward initially targeted his victim with the promise of a surprise he had for her birthday. A few days later, while the ship was in international waters between Australia and New Zealand, the victim returned to her cabin to find a birthday cake made of towels. So, really quick, would you guys think this is a red flag if your room attendant made you a birthday cake made out of towels? You know, they always do the towel animals every day, but this one kind of was above and beyond. It actually had roses on it. And it had a little candle set in, a stem with a nice card that said happy birthday from Fernando. I don't know. I think I might get a little bit weirded out by it, but I don't think it would have completely set off, alarms for me. I wish it would have set off alarms for this lady because a few minutes later, using his swipe card to get into rooms to clean them, he just walked into her room unattended. He walked right up to her, grabbed her face, and as she says it in court, he put his tongue in her mouth. We'll talk about what happens next. The victim begged Saces to stop and attempted to fend him off, but instead he put his hands over the back of her head and molested her. Saces left the room but soon returned to continue his attack. He knelt down in front of the victim while she sat trembling on her bed, grabbed her face with both hands, and ran his tongue over it. Now that's creepy. This guy was not taking the hint that she, was trembling on the bed and was not interested, and he just kept going. Kept escalating and was apparently licking her face, and that's just weird. Saces then ran his hands down her face, along her cheeks and on her neck, and used both hands to touch the rest of her body. Saces also put his hands on her hip and her backside and put his face into her breasts and pulled her close to him. So obviously Saces was trying to get something physical going with this woman. The victim says Saces squeezed her so hard that she felt her back crack. The victim also recalled she felt Saces was sexually aroused when he pressed into her stomach and groin while he squeezed her. Obviously, the guy was trying to get something going. He then smacked the frightened victim's backside. The victim again begged Saces, a father of two, to leave, telling the sex attacker that she was married. He replied that he was married as well, and that he liked older women and thought she was attractive. So he's still trying to sweet talk her. He hasn't given up yet. He is still trying to get in there. The victim told Saces her friends were nearby, but the sinister creep pulled out a device which shows the location of where people are on the ship. And if you have sailed on Princess cruises, you know they use the medallion. And the room attendants do have an electronic device that shows the location of people on the ship so that the room attendants know that they can go in and clean the room when there's nobody in there. Saces then snarled at his victim, telling her that he knew where her friends were. The victim told Saces she was scared and again begged him to leave her cabin, and eventually he did, but only after claiming he received a call from another guest. The victim took this opportunity to flee her cabin via the balcony and seek the help of friends who were in the neighboring cabin. She found safety, then reported the sexual assault to ship security, who investigated and interviewed Saces. Wait till you hear what he said. Saces claimed the victim used to hug him all the time, but he admitted to entering the U.S. tourist room without asking permission, and that he kissed her on the neck, but did not touch her in any other way. Saces was handed to police after the Royal Princess, a $735 million ship with the capacity to host 3,600 passengers, docked in Melbourne on March 13th of last year. Australian Federal Police and Victoria Police boarded the ship and collected evidence including the swipe card records, the victim's dress, CCTV, and the ship's log. CCTV and swipe card evidence proved Saces had been in and out of the victim's room over a 25-minute period. Police also photographed the creepy towel cake. Okay, and now we move on to where Stacey's goes to trial. The criminal prosecution was initially tricky due to the royal princess being in international waters at the time of the assault. It was deemed Victoria would prosecute Stacey's because the royal princess docked in Melbourne after the incident was reported. However, Stacey's was prosecuted under ACT law due to the ship's proximity to Jervis Bay, which allowed for the victim's judge to impose a suspended sentence. The victim told the court Stacey's molestation left her with anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder, which has cost her thousands to treat. The victim also said that she fears she will never travel so far from home again, and her future birthdays will spark traumatic memories of the sexual assault. A Melbourne County Court judge says that the victim's life had been greatly affected. He lashed out at Stacey's, saying, "To gratify your sexual desires without any consideration of the well-being of your victim, your conduct was nothing short of disgraceful." He pointed out that using the swipe card to gain entry to the victim's room and taking advantage of his position of trust was horrible, and the people that travel on cruise ships are entitled to know that the staff who have access to their cabins are trustworthy. Princess did submit a letter saying that up until that point he had maintained company and performance expectations. The judge also pointed out to Stacey's that this one act of lust has ruined his 20-year career as a cruise ship employee, and that his reputation is now in tatters. In the end, the punishment for Stacey's was 3 days in jail, a $1,000 fine, and 3 years of good behavior probation. Hey, do you guys think that's enough? Do you think that the punishment meets the crime? Personally, I think that Stacey's got off really easy. The guy invaded someone's space, sexually assaulted her, and messed up her head probably for life. I think jail time should probably be measured in months or years, not in days. I think the fine should be a little bit bigger than $1,000. The 3 years probation is fine, but man, I think this guy got off really easy. Let me know what you think in the comments. Should he have gotten a bigger sentence? All right, I just want to talk about a couple of things that have occurred to me while researching this story. The first one is it doesn't really add up to me that after 20 years of working on cruise ships, knowing exactly how things go, that he would all of a sudden, just on a whim, after 20 years, decide to sexually assault this woman in her room, walk into her room. I'm thinking that maybe he's done this, a few times in the past, and it worked out for him. Maybe the women were also attracted to him, and finally, this one he misread, and she wasn't having it. That seems to make sense to me. It just like somebody doing something for 20 years and then all of a sudden just breaking all the rules just does not add up to me. I don't know if that's the case. That's pure speculation, but I think that it's a good possibility. And the last thing I'll end on is it's hard to take a positive away from this story, but this could have been even worse. He could have kept going. He could have kept forcing himself on her and taken the thing all the way. He didn't do that. He did eventually leave the room. I am not belittling what he did do. He did horrible things. He entered her room without her permission. He touched her without her permission. He continued to touch her inappropriately without her permission. And finally, he left because he finally got the hint. It took him a really long time to get the hint. So it's not good what he did, but at least it didn't go as far as it could have. Got to try to find something positive to pull out of these stories. And Fernando, I am glad you didn't keep pushing it because I know that right now you would just be living with even more regret. All right, guys, that's where I'm going to leave it on this crazy cruise news story. Always remember, no matter what destination you choose, no matter what cruise line you choose, adventure awaits.